Thanks for tuning in, guys. I am joined by the great and wonderful TikTok thought leader and host of the Stay Hot podcast for Blue Wire, Theo Ash. Theo, I really appreciate you joining me. How are you doing tonight?
I'm good. I just got home. I've been on kind of a whirlwind of flights lately. I've been on like 6 in the last 5 days. So I'm glad to be home and seated and in my own space right now. I'm glad for it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was watching your TikToks. I saw you going through like your old NFL draft takes and stuff like that. That's crazy. It's awesome you keep that kind of stuff because a lot of people, if they don't jot it down, it's like gets lost into the ether. So it's really cool to kind of revisit years later.
Yeah, it is cool. It's nice to see that I hit some, and of course, it pains me when I have to be like, "Hey, look at this guy I missed from years ago. I was kind of dumb back then." So it's got its pros and cons, but people enjoy hearing about it.
Yeah, and the transparency I think is great. But we're going to switch into previewing this 49ers Falcons game. Pretty big matchup in the NFC, and I don't know if you feel differently, but I feel like I should be a lot more confident for the 49ers to get this done than I actually am. I was looking over the Falcons games, just remembering like they got completely just trashed by the Patriots. They had like 3 different quarterbacks throw interceptions, but the 49ers seem to do everything they can to beat themselves up and keep games close. How do you feel for the 49ers chances going into Sunday?
I like their chances. I mean, the Falcons may be 6-7, right? Which is a respectable record. I think, what are the 49ers? Are they 7-6?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's not a huge difference, but the difference in point differential is crazy for a team with 1 win difference. I think the Falcons, I know, is like -106 is their point differential. So when they lose big. And when they win, it's a lucky close win. So I don't think they're quite as good as their record suggests. And the 49ers at one point in the season were pretty bad record-wise. And it looked like they wouldn't make the playoffs. And they've been kind of on a tear lately. I think that this game, I think the 49ers are pretty clearly the better team. And you may feel like, oh, the 49ers tend to beat themselves. I promise you, Falcons fans know that the Falcons will find a way to lose, probably in even more horrific and embarrassing ways. That's kind of what that Falcons franchise tends to do more than maybe any other franchise in the league. So I think you can expect to.
There you go. Okay.
There we go.
Lost you for a second. Yeah, I agree with you. And, it's funny you say that because it's like the whole lore around Kyle Shanahan, even, of course, when he was with the Falcons, the whole 28-3 Super Bowl. So it does seems like that kind of still lingers. And maybe that was a Falcons thing that rubbed off on him. But I totally agree. That's a great point. The Falcons are just, when they're bad, they're really bad. So hopefully Sunday is one of those bad days.
And their front seven just doesn't have a ton of guys that really scare you if you're the 49ers. And of course, they're such a run-heavy team, and they're going to find ways to really like just pound the ball, right? Like, and the Falcons, their linebackers are a little bit undersized. Outside of Grady Jarrett's a really good defensive tackle, but outside of him, you don't feel great about anyone on that defensive line. AJ Terrell is having a great season. At cornerback for them, and I hope he gets recognized for that because he's not the hugest name in the world. But outside of him on the defense and Jarrett, like, I don't really see anyone who's going to really step up. That's the thing. It's like if they really need to stop, if they need some real physical guys that can shut down that run game, I don't know if Terrell can help with that. And I think that also bodes well for the 49ers. This isn't the world's greatest run defense here.
No, and hopefully they can get something going because they will be without rookie Elijah Mitchell for the second straight week. Jeff Wilson Jr. is going to have to kind of step it up. Last week he did all right. He kind of has this, I don't know, this love from 49ers fans. I think a lot of them remember the 0 blitz game winning touchdown against the Cardinals from the Super Bowl year, and that kind of performance just lingers in their minds. But especially ever since he came back from injury this season, he seems a little slow. So I don't know if they're going to have to throw Debo in the backfield more or what, but they need to get that ground game going. I agree.
Yeah, they'll find a way. I have faith in him. And Debo's like I think Debo has more rushing touchdowns than receiving touchdowns this year, if I'm not
Mm-hmm.
mistaken. So if they need to do that to get some extra juice, Debo is going to be able to carry that load. And there's always Trey Sermon, right? Unless he's
he's out.
hurt.
Yeah, he's out for the year.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay, I was wondering if he was just Shanahan has not really been keen on putting him in, so I was wondering if I didn't have that off the top of my head. But anyway, they've been how many injuries for running? I mean, this is what happens when you play or you coach for a team that has Raheem Mostert. You have to deal with injured running backs a lot, so it always seems to go decently for them. So, and the other thing I would say an advantage they have is the Falcons' offensive line is not good. It's not good, and if they can find some ways to get Nick Bosa, just if they could kick him inside and put him on Caleb McGarry or something, or not, yeah, Caleb McGarry, that dude stinks. All right, like so they should be able to get pressure with Bosa. Eric Armstead, Bosa, these guys should be able to get home on Matt Ryan. And Matt Ryan doesn't really have anyone to throw to outside of Pitts, and they've got a really good coverage linebacker in Fred Warner. So they match up well. They match up well. So that's my preview for them, is they match up well with this Falcons team.
Yeah, I love it. On the flip side, the 49ers offense, Jimmy Garoppolo, I love Jimmy Garoppolo, don't get me wrong, but I just feel like he's a mistake waiting to happen every single time. And Guy and John Middlecoff of the, him and Middlecoff podcast said it best. As soon as that ball goes in the air and the camera pans and you can't see where it's going, it's like the most dramatic thing on Sunday on TV. How do you feel about Jimmy Garoppolo going into tomorrow?
I agree with you guys, and I know statistically Jimmy Garoppolo has not been that bad, especially recently. I think he's near the top of the league in some efficiency stats these last couple of weeks. Does not really change my mind on him. I'm gritting my teeth like when he has to make throws that maybe aren't really laid out for him from the scheme. It's like I don't know. I think he kind of has to have his hand held a lot. He has to have his hand held, and if they're doing a good job with the play calling and the game script and they're playing an easy team and everything is going as planned, he can hit the throws. He can do it clearly, but yeah, you're right. He's not someone you quite trust. So we'll see. I feel like if they do lose the game, it is because he kind of loses the little hot streak that he's been on, which is very possible. Yeah. But it'll be interesting to see what they do with him going forward because, Lance is there. I don't know if Lance is the better player right now, but you've seen a playoff run with Garoppolo happen before, and you see the missed throw that he had in the Super Bowl, very, very famous. That just kind of like when you need a bucket, Garoppolo's probably not going to be the guy to get you that bucket. He's not that type of quarterback, which is what you'd prefer on a playoff run. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with him going forward. I would anticipate we just kind of see Garoppolo, and then next year they hand the keys. So I've been kind of impressed with Lance when I've seen him. So I don't know. I like Lance.
Yeah, same. And back to Jimmy real quick. A lot of fans, and myself included, don't get me wrong, I will give him his props for driving the Niners down the field on the last drive of the game. It's Robbie Gould unfortunately misses the kick, but right. He got the Niners in position with a ton of help from George Kittle, of course, but he was dishing out the ball. And then again in overtime, but a lot of fans immediately forgot that he threw a game-ending pick six to Jesse Bates, and Jesse Bates just dropped it. So
that's the thing that stats can't quantify, right? I mean, if there's a dropped pick, it's like that didn't really happen, but that was not a good process by Jimmy G there. So he's not a great quarterback. He's just not. I thought maybe they would trade him this season because with the cap, that kind of seemed like maybe it could work money-wise. They didn't. So I believe they'll probably stick with him, but I don't know if that's the greatest idea in the world. But I don't know. But you look at how some of the other rookie quarterbacks are doing this year, and a lot of them are struggling. So maybe it's better to keep your rookie on the bench for a while. It's a tough question for sure.
Yeah, and trust me, being in this Niners Twitter sphere and YouTube sphere, it's been like so divisive this season.
Oh my gosh. I follow a lot of 49ers people on Twitter. Yeah. All the beat reporters always argue. I know Grant Cohen is one who's always I'm sure you know him as being in the 49ers world. He seems to be kind of a divisive figure in your little 49ers community. Yeah. It's very funny to watch as an outsider. This kind of infighting that is happening because of the quarterback and Shanahan. It happens in every year, it happened. It happened with the Packers after Love got drafted, and it's like, was this a good idea? There's always some infighting, but yeah, it's happening to the 49ers right now. It's, as an outsider, it's a little bit entertaining.
It's very entertaining. It's kind of like bewildering to me how such it's like gang-like mentality. It's like, no, I'm pro Jimmy or anti Jimmy. There's no gray area. I had people tweeting at me before, like, oh, Jimmy overthrew this one. And it's just like, you're being so negative. And I'm like, I'm just simply saying what happened, man. Like, I'm sorry, but it's going to be like that until Trey takes over. And I do think kind of the main issue here is that not too many franchises give up what the Niners gave up and then keep their starting quarterback. It's like kind of either you make the move and then officially make the switch, or you don't make the move at all. So I don't know if they just didn't like anybody in next year's class. They felt like this was the year to do it, but it kind of put them in a weird spot.
And that's a good job scouting by them if they didn't like anyone in this year's class, where they were just like, we maybe don't need one right now, but we might need one the year after, and there's no one we like in the year after. Because this is kind of a weak class. There's Howell, there's Corral, there's Ritter. Malik Willis had a good game today, but man, I watch a lot of them, and it's like, these guys are projects. And I liked Lance more than all of those dudes that I've seen so far. I haven't watched a ton of Ritter or Howell yet. But as far as like, I like Lance a lot more than Corral and Malik Willis. So I think that may have been a big part of it, is like, let's get our guy this year, even though we may not need a guy this year, because the guys next year, just, we're not in love with them. So if that was their logic, I would understand. And I don't think that's a bad move. And I'm a Packer fan, and Rodgers sat for like 3 years behind Favre, and he obviously developed quite nicely. And if it ain't, it's like any job, you know, if you get thrown into a job with no training, it's going to be harder than if you learn for a little bit. So I don't know. I go back and forth on how I feel. And then you could say, well, is the best learning just playing? I don't know. But it's not I don't think a quarterback sitting for a year is necessarily an objectively bad thing. It's just different with everybody. It's different in every situation. Some guys you just have to put in right away, like an Andrew Luck or a Trevor Lawrence, or even Zach Wilson, just because there was no one else there. But I don't think it's a disaster that he's sitting right now. But I definitely can see where, you know, if you may think that he's an upgrade over Jimmy, and you just got to play the best guy. I don't know. I don't know what I'd do. I'm glad I'm not making that decision.
It's a tough situation because and they said it even before they drafted a quarterback, is like, we're not moving off of Jimmy because of performance, which, yeah, you kind of are, but whatever, you have to say that. But it was like injury history. Like, he's not there more often than he is there. So that's not a winning formula. But I think a lot of fans, and myself included, I'm sure people that watch our channel that comment, you know, oh my God, you're so divisive, whatever. It's like the physical mobility, the traits, the arm that Trey Lance brings, I think kind of automatically brings him very, very close to what Jimmy Garoppolo already is. Are there going to be rookie mistakes? Sure, but Jimmy can't seem to ever spot a linebacker or a safety in the box anyway. So it's like, you're making rookie mistakes with an 8-year vet and Jimmy Garoppolo. You might as well make them with the guy you're going to give the keys to the franchise of pretty soon. That's kind of my whole thinking of it.
I agree with you. I do think that Lance, and when Lance played against the Cardinals, there are some things that I like a lot about Lance. Obviously, he's a great runner. He is really good at it. And Shanahan is so creative with how he runs the football. And he's not even doing it with a mobile quarterback right now. Imagine when they run like zone read, they actually have a quarterback who can keep it, and the linebackers have to account for yet another guy. Like Debo's motioning. You've got Kittle who will on a shovel that could happen. You've got the running backs, and you've got a mobile quarterback to account for. When they do hand the keys over to Lance, it's going to be like the best running team in football. It's going to be ridiculous what they're going to be able to do on the ground. And that's not even like making rookie mistakes through the air or accuracy or whatever you want to say. And one thing, the other thing I think when he started in Arizona, I noticed, I think he does a really good job navigating the play. He didn't take that many sacks, which, you know, a lot of rookie quarterbacks do. Zach Wilson, Justin Fields took a lot of sacks right away. I thought Lance did a good job avoiding that. He's got the rocket arm. It's the accuracy that's a problem, and he kind of throws a ball that is difficult to catch. It wobbles a little bit. I know there was quite a few drops when he was a starter, and yes, they should catch those, but he also kind of throws a wobble. He throws rockets that are wobble a little bit, and it's a little bit difficult to catch. So that's my Lance scouting report. But really, I do think that what he offers in the running game, especially, might be worth it right now, just because I know Shanahan has some wicked tricks up his sleeve when that does eventually happen.
Yeah, it's going to be really exciting. But back to tomorrow's game, we got a little off topic just because I'm so excited about actually seeing him. The Niners right now, the line's at like 9 points. I think based off your TikToks, you do a little bit of betting. To me, as a Niners fan, that just seems like a little too high for them to win this game. They like to kind of let us stress out and have almost a heart attack. How do you feel about that game? Is it like 9.5 points too much of a line right now?
That might be 10 points. I feel like if gun to my head, I had to bet one. I feel like I would bet on the Niners to cover if I had to bet one. But overall, I would say I am avoiding this game, and I will find a different game that I like better. I would bet their money line. I would bet, I would bet their money line. But in like maybe if you're betting, like if you had like a parlay and you needed like one other thing to just boost it a little bit, that money line is maybe I'd throw that in there. But man, I don't know.
Smart man. Yeah, I agree with you there. It's just, I don't know. It's like there's so many games. There's a couple, the Rams game, the Jaguars game, where they did actually blow out a team they were supposed to blow out. But other than that, they've all been like ridiculously close. And enough with the bets. We don't have to get into that any further, but looking a little forward to the playoffs. Obviously, you talked about 1 game difference between the Falcons and the Niners, 6-7, 7-6. I think I saw some crazy stat. If the Niners win against the Falcons, their playoff chances go up to like a 80-something%, whereas if they lose, they drop down to like a 40-something%.
Okay.
You said already you kind of like their chances tomorrow. So in the playoffs, and I tweeted this out earlier before DeAndre Hopkins was lost to the season, who do you think they would match up with best? Would it be the Cardinals, the Rams, or the Cowboys?
I'm some team. I honestly might say I'm a Packers fan. The 49ers scare me as a potential matchup. All right. And I've seen them lose to the 49ers in the playoffs plenty of times before. The Colin Kaepernick game, where Colin Kaepernick had like 196 rushing yards or something. And then the NFC Championship game from a couple years ago when we just got sliced and diced on the ground. I think that was Mostert had like 200 rushing yards and Garoppolo attempted like 9 passes.
Yeah.
So it's tough for me to say, like, if I was a Packers fan going against this 49ers team, I would feel super confident, because I wouldn't feel super confident. And, you know, we lost to the Vikings, which kind of is a similar type of team. I think they want to run the ball a lot. They're not the exact same type, but, you know, they've kind of got a game managery quarterback and a philosophy that they really want to run the ball, which is the same thing as the 49ers. We lost to them this year. We almost lost to the 49ers earlier. It took a miracle from Rodgers and a game-winning kick from Crosby to beat them earlier. And that's not even when the 49ers were playing their best ball. So I would say if Hopkins out, maybe you want the Cardinals. But man, as a Packer, if it was 49ers Packers, I really think that game could go either way. So I might say Green Bay. And that's kind of me being a hater to my own team, but it's true. I don't feel confident in the 49ers. And that's a credit to the 49ers, because I feel confident in the Packers' chances against a lot of teams, but not that team. I've seen it. It's been either way too close or a loss too many times.
Yeah, it is crazy you say that. I think the trip that would have to go to Lambeau, I think kind of makes me a little nervous, but this season they've played like crap at home anyway. The Niners is, so it's like they're better on the road somehow. That would be a good matchup for me as well. I saw my guy Eric Crocker was talking about the Niners, and that's what's so frustrating is that on any given Sunday, they could basically go up with the best in the NFL, but then they lose games to the Seahawks, which I know it's divisional things, crazy things happen in divisional games, but it's like you can't really put a pin in where exactly they are as a team, and that's what's so frustrating. So
It's kind of like that with the whole NFL this year, isn't it?
that's fair.
There's a few teams that I feel like that's a legit team, especially in the AFC. Oh my lord! I know this isn't the NFC is a little bit more where I'm like, okay, these guys are at the top. But there's just a bunch of times this year where I'm like, oh, are the Rams good? Yes, they're really good. They're Super Bowl. Oh, maybe they're bad. Oh, maybe they're good again. I don't know. Cardinals, same kind of thing. So if this is a year, I could definitely see some crazy runs from a wild card team happening this year because it's just been kind of a weird year for the top seeds. And I think that we're kind of getting the Buccaneers and the Packers kind of maybe separating themselves. The Rams look to be back on track a little bit. But yeah, I think that they match up well with a lot of teams, and it's a team that they've got a coach who've had deep playoff runs before, and a team, a very similar iteration of this team just went to the Super Bowl. So I would say the Packers, though. The Packers are a team that they would probably feel pretty good matching up against because of their prior successes.
Yeah, that makes me feel actually a little better than before I asked the question. We're going to wrap things up here shortly, but my co-host Matt and I normally give a defensive or offensive MVP prediction. I know you're not a Niners fan, so you're probably not as in tune, but if you had to pick one from either side of the ball to have a hell of a game tomorrow against the Falcons, who would you pick?
I might go with an under the radar guy. I would say maybe Armstead. Is Armstead playing the interior defensive lineman? The interior defensive line of Atlanta is not very good. All right. Their guards, especially McGarry, is not very good. I could see definitely one of the interior defensive linemen really, really racking up a lot of pressure. So I would go kind of under the radar, someone maybe outside the box and say them.
Okay, I like that. It's funny you say Armstead because a lot of fans just kind of chew him alive. They compare him to Buckner, and it's like, oh, we kept Armstead over Buckner, but there was no way the Niners could afford to keep Buckner. Like, looking at it realistically, it was the move that needed to be done. So I'm glad you said Armstead. I got to go with the easy one, and it's just Debo Samuel. He wasn't fully healthy last week. Now he's, I would assume, fully healthy. Elijah Mitchell's not going to be in there. They got to get some running game from someone. I'm going to go with Debo Samuel. It's the safe bet every week. So, guys, go check out Theo's work. He's fantastic follow on TikTok, great on Twitter. Go check out the Stay Hot podcast brought to you by Blue Wire Pods. Theo, thanks for joining me. Have a great night, and best of luck to the Packers the rest of the season.